Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus pilot, and today we are going to have a look at the standard ILS approach and the landing in the iniBuilds A300. So we are slightly discontinuing the sequence of our previous tutorial video over here because we had encountered visibility conditions that were under the minimum for a manual landing and therefore switched to an auto land. On this one, however, we are going to fly the very same approach to Indianapolis runway 5 right, but we are approaching from the south and we are about to turn onto final, also we are slightly heavier. So let's quickly talk about the differences in the approach setup for the manual ILS. Now, on this one you can see I did not select any decision height manually, but instead I went onto the approach page and entered the MDA down there. Also, we have dialed in the altitude back to our required minima, which for the category 1 ILS is 991 feet, which is 200 above the ground. So 991 is dialed in over here and represents our minima. Now let's talk about the standard ILS approach sequence. And this is now all standard, no tailwind, no low altitude intercept as we are going to do in the Autoland. This is all standard. So no later than 3 nautical miles before the final approach fix, we are going to go for slats 15 and reduce our speed to the S speed in the absence of any ATC speed restrictions. Once we're cleared for the approach, we're going to press the land button on the FCU once again, and we're going to engage the second autopilot. And we are going to be within a nice 30 degrees of the localizer course to intercept smoothly. That is a requirement from the autopilot. So, once we have localizer and glide slope capture, we are going to continue on the ILS in that slat 15 configuration. And at 2,000 feet above the ground, or 1 dot below the glide, in this case it's going to be 2000 above ground, we are going to select flaps 15, reduce to the F speed, arm the speed brakes, and we are going to extend the landing gear. Alright, finally when the gear is down we'll go flaps 20 and then flaps 40, and we need to be fully configured by 1000 foot above the ground, and we need to be fully stabilized by 500 above the ground. Let's talk about the actual landing then. For the landing technique at 50 feet we're going to look toward the far end of the runway for optimal landing rate perception. At between 20 and 30 feet, depending on your descent rate, we are simultaneously going to raise the nose gently by about 1 or 2 degrees in order to arrest the descent rate, and we are going to close our thrust levers. At touchdown, pull the reverses, check that the ground spoilers have extended, and monitor that the auto brake is working. Below 80 knots we are going to start to stow our reversers to avoid FOD ingestion risk. Alright, and that is pretty much the entire procedure that we are going to fly for the manual approach. Okay, so with everything prepared, let's take the aircraft out of the active pause, like so. And then we'll start intercepting our final approach course in a few moments. I will leave the autopilot engaged. We will only take it out once we are fully configured, so that we can focus on the actual flying of the airplane over here. Remember, landing elevation is 800, so we are actually flying just 3,200 feet above the landing elevation right now. So basically a standard 3,000 feet platform altitude that we are currently using to fly this intercept. Okay then. Land mode is armed. Both autopilots are on. Lock star. Runway track 050 is set. Then we will intercept the glide slope next. And the localizer is coming alive down there. Glide slope star. Go around altitude 3000 set. Okay, so we are rather fast at the moment with 200 knots indicated airspeed, but that is the standard procedure. Keep in mind we're at a rather heavy weight here as well at 305,600 pounds. So Rather heavy, rather fast, but that is the SOP. And you will see later on that the airplane is still going to reduce rather nicely. Okay, so 2,000 above the ground, we're going to continue with our configuration. Okay then. Let's go ahead and start configuring. Flaps 15. Gear down. And the landing gear does take a while in the A300 to come down, so have a look at the speed over here. It's really going to need time until the gear is down before that speed is going to come back. But here it comes. Okay then, flaps 20. I'm going to select the approach now, 144. Right, arm the spoilers, turn on the nose lights, and then speed is coming down nicely now. 175 is the next VFE, so we gotta be careful that we are below that speed by the time we select our next landing flap setting. Here we go, flaps 40. So, landing checklist. Landing gear, down, auto brake, low, anti-skid checked, sleds flaps, 30 and 40. And these spoilers are armed, landing checklist complete. So, reaching the stable gate of 500 feet in a few moments. Here we go, 500, continue. Okay, so, now let's go all manual. Manual thrust, autopilot off, and now remember we'll go stable through 50, and at between 20 and 30 we're going to start the flare. The A300 only needs a very gentle input in order to get into and maintain the flare. You will see that happen in a moment. So, nothing, nothing, okay, tiny flare, just a tiny bit, thrust idle, and then we can just keep it flaring, and we're down. Okay, spoiler, reverse green. You can see the trend arrow down here, so that's a decel. And like that we are now nicely reducing speed. Reaching 80 knots, we're going to return to idle reverse, 70 knots. And manual brakes, the auto brake is off. So let's slow it down, 10 knots, and then we'll take the next exit. And that's about as easy as it is. So at 30 feet, when the airplane enters the ground effect, there is a natural tendency of the A300 to break the descent rate. Therefore, only a very slight flare is actually going to be needed on the controls in order to get your airplane to arrest the rate of descent. So be careful, if you overflare the plane, you are very likely to climb away, so just make sure to take careful control of your aircraft. Alright then, that's it for this video guys. Thank you very much for watching, I do hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to leave a like in YouTube as well, as it really helps out the channel. If you haven't done that yet, consider subscribing if you're up for more. And finally, if you really love what I'm doing, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and then I see you all again on the next one.